Samantha Sam. Riley sat quietly at the back of the FBI briefing room, her hands folded in her lap. Around her, seasoned agents whispered to each other, exchanging smirks. At 22, Sam was one of the youngest recruits the agency had seen in years, and it showed. Her long brown hair was tied in a practical braid, her uniform immaculate, but there was something about her presence that made her seem out of place. "Are we sure she's not just a civilian intern?" muttered one agent under his breath, loud enough for the nearby team leader, Agent Hawkins, to catch. Hawkins, a tall man with a graying beard and piercing blue eyes, laughed aloud, shaking his head. "I don't know. Maybe she's here to fetch coffee for us. Welcome to the real world, kid." Sam's jaw tightened, but she didn't respond. She didn't have to. She knew she carried a weight most people couldn't even imagine. Her mother, Colonel Jessica Riley, was a legend in the Navy SEAL community. Known for her unmatched leadership, her strategic mind, and her fearless courage in the most harrowing of covert operations, Jessica had been part of countless missions, alongside names like Chris Kyle and David Sterling. And Sam had trained under her from childhood, learning the ways of combat, tactics, and survival. But no one here knew that yet. The briefing began. A terrorist group had stolen highly classified military intelligence and was planning to sell it on the black market. The FBI had been tracking them for months, but the operation was faltering. Sam listened intently, memorizing every detail, her mind already racing through potential infiltration strategies. Quick pause. Comment where you're watching from. And if you love these stories, hit subscribe now. The next one will blow your mind. And it's even crazier. Sam had spent countless nights in the basement of her mother's home, drilling with targets, learning to move silently, and handling weapons that many of the agents here wouldn't touch for years. Her hands were steady, her eyes trained to spot the slightest hint of movement, and her instincts sharpened by countless simulations. She was ready, even if no one else knew it. When the team was deployed overseas, Sam stayed behind, officially under observation as an analyst. But secretly, she was preparing for something bigger. The terrorist group had a heavily fortified base, in a remote location surrounded by high walls, armed guards, and motion sensors. Sam reviewed blueprints, studied guard rotations, and mapped out every entry and exit point. By the time the team reached the target, she had already memorized every detail. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. "Confidence comes from preparation. Fear is just a reminder that you're alive." The night of the operation arrived. Sam moved through the shadows, dressed in black tactical gear, her face painted for camouflage. She carried a compact custom M4 carbine, fitted with a suppressor for silent precision. Every step she took was calculated, every breath controlled. She bypassed security cameras with ease, slipping through corridors while guards remained oblivious. Inside the compound, Sam encountered her first obstacle, a guard patrolling a narrow hallway. She froze, waited for him to approach, and with a swift, silent motion, incapacitated him. Her movements were fluid, almost elegant, yet lethal. She pressed on, deeper into the heart of the enemy base, where the stolen intelligence was being held. Meanwhile, Hawkins and the rest of the FBI team were struggling outside, unsure how to breach the fortified compound without triggering alarms. Sam's intelligence, gathered from months of careful observation and preparation, allowed her to bypass what would have been an impossible challenge for most seasoned agents. As she reached the inner sanctum, Sam's heart raced. The room was guarded by two armed men, chatting casually, unaware of the shadow that had just slipped past their defenses. Sam raised her M4 and, with a breath she barely noticed she had taken, neutralized both threats in seconds. Her movements were precise, professional, a testament to years of silent training under the strictest discipline. But the most dangerous part wasn't the guards. It was the countdown clock blinking ominously above the room. The terrorists had set an explosive. designed to destroy the intelligence if anyone approached. Sam had mere minutes. She worked swiftly, disabling the device while keeping one eye on the door. The tension in the air was suffocating, each second dragging like hours. Finally, she secured the files. As she turned to leave, a young terrorist appeared, gun raised. Sam's training kicked in automatically. She ducked behind a crate, rolled to her side, and took the shot. Clean, precise, unflinching. The man collapsed and the room fell silent. Her hands trembled slightly, but only from the adrenaline coursing through her veins, not fear. Exfiltration was another challenge. Sam had to navigate back through corridors now alerted to a breach. Motion sensors triggered alarms, lights flickered, and the distant shouts of guards grew louder. But she moved like a shadow, retracing her steps, using every skill her mother had taught her. When she finally emerged from the compound, she was met with a helicopter hovering silently above the clearing. Her mother and a team of elite Navy SEALs were waiting, ready to extract her and the intelligence safely. The operation, a mission that could have easily ended in disaster, was a success, all because a young woman no one took seriously had the courage, skill, and nerve to step up when it mattered most. The next morning, Sam returned to FBI headquarters, intelligence in hand. Hawkins was still in the room, arms crossed, disbelief etched across his face. Sam walked in with her mother and the elite squad behind her. The room fell silent. Agent Hawkins finally opened his mouth, but no words came. He had laughed at her the day before, doubted her abilities, assumed she was inexperienced and fragile. Now, confronted by the undeniable proof of her courage and skill, he could only stare. Sam's presence, calm but resolute, filled the room with a quiet power that no one could ignore. Her mother stepped forward. "This young woman," Colonel Riley said, her voice steady and commanding, "has proven herself more than capable. She's more than ready for field operations. You would do well to remember that." Sam felt a surge of pride, not from the accolades or recognition, but from knowing she had lived up to the training, the discipline, and the courage instilled in her since childhood. She had stepped out of the shadows, not for fame or approval, but because it was the right thing to do. In the days that followed, Sam's reputation grew. She trained with the FBI as a tactical consultant, showing teams how to operate with precision, strategy, and bravery. Her story became an inspiration, a reminder that courage isn't defined by age, gender, or appearance, but by action in the face of danger. And through it all, one truth remained. Sam Riley, the young woman once laughed at, had walked into the world of elite operatives and proved that she belonged. Every mission that followed was a testament to her skills, her intelligence, and the unbreakable bond she shared with her mother. A bond forged in courage, honed in combat, and proven in the moments when the world needed heroes most. Even Agent Hawkins, once skeptical and dismissive, began to nod in respect whenever he saw her. He had learned a lesson he would never forget. Never underestimate someone who carries both determination and legacy. The mission may have been over, but Sam knew this was only the beginning. There would be more operations, more challenges, more moments where courage would be tested, and she would be ready, standing tall, carrying both her mother's legacy and her own, proving time and again that bravery isn't something you are given, it's something you earn. By the end of it all, the name Samantha Riley would echo through the ranks of both the FBI and the Navy SEALs, a name synonymous with skill, courage, and relentless determination. She had walked in with them, faced danger head-on, and emerged victorious. And for the first time, she truly believed that nothing could stand in her way. Lila Carter sat on the cold metal bench of the FBI training center, her knees tucked close to her chest. She could hear the laughter before she even saw the smirks. Agents whispered behind their hands, and one even called her too small for The job. She kept her head down, letting the ridicule wash over her, but inside a storm was building. She wasn't here to prove them wrong, she was here to prove herself. Her mother, Major Rebecca Carter, had been a Navy SEAL for over 20 years, a woman who had seen the darkest corners of combat and survived them with grit and precision. She had trained alongside Marcus Luttrell and other legendary operatives, and she had trained Lila herself in secret, since she could hold a rifle. Lila knew how to track, hunt, and strike with deadly efficiency, yet nobody at the FBI knew it. They only saw a young woman, underestimated and laughed at. The briefing room buzzed with tension. A squad of special forces had gone missing behind enemy lines in Afghanistan, and intelligence indicated they were trapped in a hostile zone controlled by a dangerous insurgent group. The FBI was coordinating with Allied forces, but time was slipping away. Lila listened carefully, her mind running through every detail, memorizing every map, every rotation, every weak point in the enemy's defenses. Quick pause. Comment where you're watching from. And if you love these stories, hit subscribe now. The next one will blow your mind, and it's even crazier. She had spent years training in secret, silent hours in the dark, learning to move without a sound, to see without being seen. Her hands were steady from shooting drills, her reflexes honed to perfection, her mind as sharp as any veteran's. She knew that the key to survival was patience, observation, and precision. Tonight, she would put it all to the test. The sun set over the rugged terrain of Afghanistan as Lila touched down near the outskirts of the enemy compound. She was dressed in black tactical gear, a suppressed sniper rifle slung across her back and a combat knife strapped to her thigh. Her heart raced, not from fear, but from anticipation. She had rehearsed this in her mind 1,000 times. Now, the stakes were real. The compound was heavily guarded, and every path seemed lethal. Lila crawled through the dusty terrain, sticking close to shadows, her movements silent and calculated. The enemy patrols moved like clockwork, predictable in their patterns. She had memorized their schedule from satellite images and intelligence reports. With each step, she drew closer to the missing squad. Inside the compound, 2 guards rounded a corner, their flashlights sweeping the area. Lila froze behind a low wall, barely breathing, waiting for the perfect moment. When the guards passed, she moved quickly, disabling a security camera with a precision shot that cut the feed without, raising an alarm. Every motion was measured, every breath deliberate. Her training with her mother had prepared her for moments like this. She recalled Rebecca's words. "The battlefield is a game of patience, Lila. One wrong move, and it's over. One right. Move, and you change everything." Lila adjusted her aim, her fingers steady on the trigger. She neutralized the guards without hesitation. As she moved deeper into the compound, the sounds of captivity reached her ears. Low murmurs, the clinking of chains, and a subtle rhythm of desperation. She was close. Every step she took was careful, every shadow her ally. When she finally reached the holding room, she found the squad huddled together, tired, but alive. They were surrounded by armed insurgents, unaware of the silent predator in their midst. Lila crouched, observing, calculating. She couldn't risk a direct confrontation. She needed precision and stealth. One by one, she eliminated the threats, using a combination of long-range shots and silent takedowns. Her movements were so precise, so practiced, that the enemies didn't know what hit them until it was too late. She worked quickly to free the squad, cutting their bonds and giving them instructions in whispered commands. They moved in tandem, shadows against the night, exiting the compound as silently as they had entered. Every step was fraught with danger, every second counted. The extraction point was a helicopter hovering silently above a clearing, engines barely audible over the night air. Lila signaled, and the team moved swiftly, securing themselves in the aircraft. The mission, one that could have ended in tragedy, was a success because a young woman no one had taken seriously had the courage and skill to act when it mattered most. Back at FBI headquarters, the story of her operation began to circulate. Agents who had laughed at her were now silent, their skepticism replaced by awe. Lila returned to the office with her mother and the rescued squad in tow. The room fell quiet as she entered, her presence commanding attention. Agent Matthews, who had mocked her earlier, couldn't hide his surprise. How did you manage this?" he stammered, glancing at the files and reports detailing the operation. Lila's mother stepped forward, her voice steady and authoritative. "This young woman has proven herself more than capable. She's not just ready for the field, she excels in it. Doubt her no longer." Lila felt a surge of quiet. Pride, not from recognition, but from knowing she had done what she had trained to do. She had proven her capability in the face of danger, showing that courage isn't measured by size, age, or appearance, but by action and skill. In the days that followed, she trained with the FBI as a tactical consultant, sharing her knowledge of stealth operations, precision strikes, and survival strategies. Teams began to look up to her, seeking guidance and learning from her experience. The ridicule she had faced was replaced with respect and admiration, a transformation that mirrored the very essence of courage she had embodied on that mission. Even Agent Matthews, once dismissive and mocking, started to nod in approval whenever she spoke. He had learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate someone who has the training, courage, and determination to act when it counts the most. The mission had been more than a test of skill. It had been a test of character. Lila had faced danger alone, navigated hostile territory, and saved lives using nothing but her wits, her training, and the lessons her mother had instilled in her. She had turned doubt into respect, fear into courage, and skepticism into admiration. Through it all, one truth remained unshakable. Lila Carter had earned her place among the elite. She had walked through fire, faced death, and emerged stronger, proving that bravery is not a gift, but a choice, one that defines who you are in the moments that matter most. Her story became an inspiration, not just within the ranks of the FBI, but for young women everywhere who had ever been doubted or dismissed. Lila's courage showed that true strength comes from preparation, intelligence, and the willingness to step up when no one else can. The bond between mother and daughter, forged in years of training and shared discipline, had created a force that was unstoppable. Lila's success was a testament to that bond, a living proof that courage, skill, and determination could overcome any obstacle. By the end of it, Lila Carter was no longer the young woman laughed at in the briefing room. She was a hero in her own right, respected by peers, feared by enemies, and forever defined by the choices she had made when it mattered most. Her journey was only beginning, and the world would soon recognize that when it came to courage, intelligence, and skill, she was unmatched. The missions ahead would test her again, pushing her to the limits of endurance, strategy, and bravery. But Lila knew one thing for certain. She was ready. With the lessons of her mother and the fire of her own determination, there was nothing she couldn't face. The world had underestimated her once. It would never happen again. Emily Sinclair adjusted her earpiece as she stepped into the bustling International Intelligence Summit in London. She could feel the stares before she even reached the room. Delegates, analysts, and agents from around the world eyed her skeptically, some smirking at the sight of a young woman in tactical attire among hardened professionals. Emily had heard it before, words like too inexperienced or just here to observe. She ignored them, keeping her gaze forward. Her mother, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Sinclair, was a legend in the Navy SEAL community. She had served in countless covert operations alongside British SAS legends like Andy McNabb, as well as elite U.S. forces. Her career was built on precision, bravery, and unwavering discipline. And from a young age, Emily had trained under her mother's watchful eye, learning the art of combat, tactical strategy, and survival. Yet no one at this summit had any idea of her true capabilities. The room erupted in murmurs as Agent Collins, a high-ranking FBI officer, laughed openly at her. "Are we sure she's not just here for the tea?" he sneered, glancing at her with an expression that screamed doubt. Emily felt a familiar surge of determination. Let them doubt her. They had no idea what was about to happen. The briefing began. A weapons smuggling cartel had acquired a cache of highly destructive explosives and planned an attack on a major city. International forces were coordinating a joint operation, but intelligence was limited and time was running out. Emily studied every document, every map, every photograph with laser focus, already calculating infiltration routes and tactical strategies. Quick pause. Comment where you're watching from. And if you love these stories, hit subscribe now. The next one will blow your mind, and it's even crazier. By nightfall, Emily was airborne, aboard a small stealth helicopter heading toward the cartel's compound in a remote mountainous region. Dressed in black tactical gear and armed with a customized Glock 19 and a combat knife, she felt the familiar rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins. This was what she had trained for. Every early morning, every grueling simulation, every drill her mother had put her through. The compound was heavily guarded, surrounded by high walls, barbed wire, and armed sentries. Emily moved with calculated stealth, her movements silent against the rocky terrain. Every shadow was her ally, every sound her enemy. She had memorized the guards' patrol patterns from satellite footage and intelligence files, anticipating every move before it even happened. Inside the perimeter, Emily spotted her first obstacle, a guard tower with a vigilant lookout. She crouched low, using the terrain as cover, and fired a single, precise shot from her Glock. The guard went down silently, a testament to her training and control. She pressed forward, disabling cameras and avoiding motion sensors with calculated precision. Her every step was deliberate, every action a blend of patience, skill, and instinct. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. "Emily, the battlefield rewards patience and punishes haste. Make every move count, or you risk everything." Emily smiled faintly, recalling the countless nights she had spent running drills in their home gym, perfecting stealth maneuvers and tactical precision. As she entered the heart of the compound, she discovered the weapons cache guarded by a pair of armed cartel enforcers. They laughed, confident that no one could infiltrate their fortress. Emily's hands were steady. She used her knife first, silently neutralizing one, then drew her Glock for the second, dropping him before an alarm could sound. She moved with lethal efficiency, her training and courage on full display. But the greatest threat wasn't the guards. It was the ticking clock above the crates of explosives. Emily had mere minutes to disable the detonators before the devices could be activated remotely. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she worked with surgical precision, cutting wires and deactivating triggers. The tension was suffocating, each second, stretching into eternity. Once the explosives were secured, she turned her attention to the remaining cartel members. Using a combination of hand-to-hand combat and tactical maneuvering, Emily disarmed and subdued them, demonstrating skills that rivaled any seasoned operative. The mission, which could have easily ended in catastrophe, was now turning into a flawless success. Extraction posed the final challenge. The cartel had reinforcements on the way, and Emily had to navigate through corridors filled with armed men and motion sensors. She moved like a shadow, evading detection, anticipating threats, and neutralizing obstacles silently. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum in her chest. Every step was a calculated risk. Finally, she reached the extraction point, a clearing where a stealth helicopter hovered, engines barely audible in the night. She signaled, and her team, including Her mother and a contingent of elite Navy SEALs secured themselves on board with the captured cartel members and explosives. The operation, a feat of precision, courage, and intellect, had been a resounding success, all because a young woman underestimated by the world had stepped up when it mattered most. Returning to the intelligence summit, Emily walked in with her mother and the apprehended cartel leaders in tow. The room fell silent. Even Agent Collins, who had mocked her earlier, couldn't hide his shock. I don't understand, he stammered, glancing at the dossiers and intelligence reports documenting the operation. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Sinclair stepped forward, her presence commanding authority. "This young woman," she said, her voice, steady and resolute, "has proven herself capable of handling field operations at the highest level. Underestimate her no longer." Emily felt a surge of quiet pride, not from recognition, but from knowing she had fulfilled her purpose. She had taken action when others hesitated, had navigated danger with skill and precision, and had emerged victorious. She had proven that courage isn't defined by age, appearance, or doubt. It is measured by what you do when the stakes are highest. In the days that followed, Emily began training with the summit's security and tactical teams, sharing her strategies for stealth, combat, and rapid decision-making. Her reputation grew quickly. Those who had doubted her now sought her guidance, recognizing that her abilities extended far beyond what anyone had imagined. Even Agent Collins, once dismissive and mocking, began to respect her skill and judgment. He realized that true capability is revealed not by appearances or words, but by action under pressure. Emily had demonstrated this in the most extreme circumstances. The mission had tested more than just her tactical skills. It had tested her resolve, intelligence, and courage. She had faced imminent danger, navigated a heavily fortified compound, and neutralized a high-threat situation single-handedly. Through every challenge, she had relied on her training, her instincts, and the lessons imparted by her mother. The bond between mother and daughter, forged through years of rigorous training and shared discipline, had created a force that was unstoppable. Emily's success was proof that legacy, combined with skill and courage, could overcome any obstacle. By the time the international summit concluded, Emily Sinclair was no longer the young woman laughed at and underestimated. She was a hero, respected by peers, feared by enemies, and defined by the courage and skill she had displayed when the world needed heroes most. Her journey had just begun, and future missions would test her again, pushing her limits further than ever before. But Emily knew one truth for certain: she was ready. She had the training, the instincts, and the courage to face whatever lay ahead. No longer underestimated, she had claimed her place among the elite, proving that true bravery is earned, not assumed. Her story spread quietly among intelligence communities, a tale of precision, bravery, and determination. Emily had faced doubt, danger, and near-impossible odds, and emerged victorious. Every mission she would undertake from that point forward carried the weight of her courage and the legacy of her mother's unparalleled skill. The young woman once mocked had become a symbol of relentless determination and unyielding courage. Emily Sinclair had walked into danger alone, emerged victorious, and earned the respect of the world. And as she prepared for the next mission, one truth remained: she was unstoppable.